Let's continue to talk about the 12th house, especially in a way in which it doesn't feel as literal in terms of the house of the enemies, right? Because that can cause a lot of people to be like, wait a minute, everybody who's in Aries is my enemy. As I said earlier on, think about it as the energy. So of course it could be, if you're in Aries, if Aries is on the cusp or in your 12th house, it could be you've had experiences where you felt that Aries individuals are your hidden enemy. So with Aries being there, it could be people in general who stunt your progress, people who are afraid of your ability to move forward, people who don't want you to be independent. And that could be anybody. It doesn't have to be some, secret hidden enemy lurking in the corner, right? It could be a family member, right? It could be a partner, it could be a sibling, it could be anyone who is threatened by your sense of independence. So that's one thing to keep in mind about this energy of like the hidden enemy. Like, how can we look at it symbolically if it does not fit your life literally, right? Taurus. If Taurus is on the cusp of your 12th house, or Taurus is your there's energy in there. It can be people who don't appreciate your value, people who don't see you for who you are. And again, when we talk about that in the 12th house, that is the area where things can be hidden. And so a lot of times we actually need people around us who take the chance and are willing to see that part of us, right? So, I sometimes use myself as an example with Leo in my 12th house. It is people who see my talents, even when I don't want to showcase them, or when I'm like not sure about them or haven't been sure in certain parts of my life. Like, those people see those things in you, because remember, the 12th house is not going to be super visible, but the people who really take the time to get to know you will be able to see some of those things. So with Taurus, it is people who don't see your value, or people who don't affirm your beauty, or you might have been growing up and you didn't feel like your parents told you were beautiful or you were handsome or whatever, or gave you any sense of validation. Maybe you had a sibling and that sibling was always told they were great, or they were, better or whatever. So for Taurus in the 12th house, a lot of times it's your hidden enemies, or people who aren't the people who constantly devalue you. These are people who may keep you around, but they don't see you for who you are. Okay. Gemini, people who stunt your voice. So if you have 12th house Gemini energy, Gemini in that 12th house, and we're talking about hidden enemies, does not have to mean it is a Gemini person. It could be, but it might not. Right? Well, let's look at the energy of Gemini by itself without us, talking specifically about a person. It could be these are people who, by person, I mean, we're not talking about the Gemini person, so to speak, but these people will have qualities of what someone who is threatened by you may do. So 12th house, there's people who are threatened by your sense of, they're threatened by your sense of the way you think. They're threatened by your voice. Maybe they don't want you to be an independent thinker. They don't want you to think for yourself. And when you start to think for yourself, that is where you can notice some problems where you're not able to form that identity of understanding yourself at a deeper level, because you're so busy trying to say the right thing for the right people. This can essentially, especially be really serious for people who have Chiron and Gemini in the 12th house. It could really be serious for you guys, because Chiron in Gemini already is struggling to fully assert one's voice, to say what has to be said. And so with, when we're talking about hidden enemies, it is going to be people who don't let you say things the way you want to say them, who are correcting how you say things. Because if Gemini is on the cusp of your 12th house and we are using, so then obviously the ascendant comes next. And let's say we're just using Placidus, where there is no, whole signs where there's no opportunity for an interception anywhere in these next houses. You would have Virgo in your 3rd house, which could mean you have a very analytical mind. You're a thinker, but that Chiron there would also mean that you have a lot of things that you think in your head, but people have told you your ideas aren't correct, or people told you that you didn't say things right, or people are constantly stealing your ideas, right? Those could be hidden enemies, Okay, for you. If we're talking about Cancer in the cusp of the 12th house, Cancer in the 12th, it's going to be people who use your emotions against you. It is going to be people who are, they know what you want, they know what you need. It's the friend who knows, you struggled growing up and you really value your friendships because you had, a bad family upbringing, but they're always, mistreating you, but they know that you need them. or they feel like you need them, right? So with Cancer, your hidden enemies are going to be people who exploit your emotions, people who do things because they know what your weak spot is in terms of your wounds from your past. People who use your past against you to emotionally manipulate you could be people who are your hidden enemies. And again, why I say it's hidden is because it's not something you openly see. With the seventh house, and this gets dodgy, I'll talk about the seventh house differently, but like it's not an open opponent. The 12th house is hidden. So these people will come into your life and you might be friends at first, or they might be family members, those types of things. Now, next we're going to talk about, so we talk about Cancer, Leo. Leo is on the cusp of your 12th house. Your hidden enemy is going to be people who don't praise you, people who might see that you do something well, but they're not able to tell you that you did, people who are threatened by when you do well, people who are threatened by what makes you special, people who don't want you to outshine them. So if you've Leo on the cusp of your 12th house, okay, Virgo, okay, you're Virgo rising, you come into this world, you may have this kind of humble and identity, but you can be quite good at certain things, especially when you care about them. You put a lot of energy and effort into them. Really heightened if you have any other Virgo placements or Leo in that 12th house specifically. So the people who support you, you're going to know who those people support you because they're going to see that part of you. They're going to see the thing that you hide, and they're going to be like, no, this is good. No, you're good at this, right? And I talk a lot about 12th house fire. Fire cannot be contained in the 12th house for long. That's a whole different conversation that I probably have in another video. But the point is, your hidden enemies are going to be people who are afraid to see you shine. And this might be a friend. This might be somebody that likes you being a little lackey. Or they think like, oh, you're not vocal. You're not the tough one. Or you're not, someone who talks a lot. Or you don't come off a certain way. And they think that they can mold your identity for you. They think that they can tell you what you're good at. You're good for being what I need you to be for, right? Use your energy, use your shine for me. So when Leo is there, it can mean your hidden enemies are going to be those types of people who try to focus your attention on them. These are going to be people who want you to take all that shine, what you have as your talent for them, but they don't really ever validate you. They don't ever praise you. And it's not about Leo placements all needing excessive praise. But in the 12th house, when we're talking about that is typically, especially, we think of the Virgo energy there. Some of us have Leo and Virgo in our 12th house if we use Placidus, and some of us just Virgo rising, right? There's a humbleness there, and the Virgo energy sometimes needs to hear compliments and hear that they're good at what they're doing, because there can be a lot of second guessing. But your hidden enemies are going to be people who try to take your shine. They try to dim your light. Those are your hidden enemies. But they're going to come across as like they're friends, or it could be people in your family where you're like, everybody else, people outside of your family are praising you, but this one person can't just say, yeah, you're really good at that. They don't want to validate you. Virgo, people who are your hidden enemies are going to be people who understand you very well, but sometimes may play mind games on you, or sometimes they may be the types of people who, you can't ever figure out what their agenda is with you. You can have a lot of confusing situations with people where, they like you one minute, but they don't like you the next minute, and you're always just trying to figure out what place you play in their life. And because we're talking about Virgo energy, right? And we could talk about some of y'all having Virgo in that 12th house. We could even talk about if some of y'all have interceptions, you might have Virgo on the cusp of your 12th house, and Virgo is on your first house cusp as your ascendant, right? If we're using Placidus. Some of you might have that. But what it means is like you could feel like you're always kind of in servitude to people or certain people in your life. Like you're always trying to do acts of service. You're always trying to do more to prove that you matter, to prove like they can be unnecessarily critical of you. They can sometimes tell you you're not doing something right. Okay, you're not, as a daughter, you're supposed to do this, or you're my partner, you're supposed to do this. So your hidden enemies are going to be people that expect a lot from you, but sometimes don't actually give it in return. Or these people are constantly telling you what you're doing wrong instead of telling you what you need to do right, or what you are doing right. And you end up feeling like you're doing a lot for these people. And like, you end up feeling like you're doing a lot of, you're doing all the work to maintain the relationship, to maintain the situation. But again, we're talking about hidden enemies. So this can come into the form of relationships, marriage, siblings, family members, friends, right? That's the thing we have to understand about hidden enemies. They're not necessarily going to be people we think they are. Libra, if you have Libra in the 12th house. Okay, so Libra on the cusp of the 12th house, if we're talking about hidden enemies, these are going to be people that do come in the form of some type of partnership or business partner relationship. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be this level of like codependency. But a lot of times your hidden enemy comes through like they people that don't want you to outgrow them. So with Libra on the cusp of the 12th house, Libra in the 12th house, if we are talking specifically about the topic of hidden enemies, these are going to be people you're already in some type of contract, partnership, or association with. But it's not going to seem like it at first. And I don't think that means that all these people are evil. It just might mean they're not an energetic match for you, or it just might mean they have some work to do. Like you have to repair that relationship in some way, shape, or form so that you're getting something from it. You are here to learn about karmic relationships. You are here to learn about the importance of divine relationships. But if we're talking about the topic specifically of hidden enemies, and this video is about, it's going to be people that maybe there's not a balance in the relationship. You're doing a lot more, or there's situations where it could be these are people who don't want you to outgrow the need. They don't, you were business partners, but you were supposed to eventually branch out on your own. They don't want you to. Your partner doesn't want you to go back to college to pursue something. They want you to stay right where you are. So with Libra on the cusp of the 12th house, if we're talking about hidden enemies, Libra in the 12th house, that's what that can manifest as. Of course, if you have planets there, that's going to give you even more insight. Scorpio, the hidden enemies for the Scorpio individuals are going to be people who you have some type of deep emotional connection with. You have some type of experience that you've gone through together, and there could be an assumption because you've gone through those experiences together that makes you closer, and so you attach yourself a lot to these people that you went through a lot with. And so it's going to be very interesting for the Scorpio 12th house Scorpio placements, 12th house topic of hidden enemies, because there's an assumption of we went through so much together. You could talk about family, you could talk about siblings, and you both, went to foster care together, and you dealt with your parental issues. You went through some trauma, or you have people who are like, yeah, growing up, we by me and my best friend, we faced a similar situation. So this kind of is really a sneak attack for Scorpio energy, because it is so well embedded in the fact that you have some type of maybe secret or something that it's hidden, something that you've gone through. And because of that, you assume people like that have your back. Maybe you've dealt with a serious situation and you go to a support group and you meet a friend, right? So for Scorpio in the 12th house, if you have hidden enemies or these types of individuals, it will be something where it is somebody, it can come off as very damaging emotionally if you're not perceptive, because it can be people who use, kind of like I said with Cancer, with using something to your advantage, but Cancer is a little bit more open. That the energy is more, how do I say with Cancer? It's cardinal. So the energy is going to be a little bit more like directly, I'm doing this because. But with Scorpio, it could be people like these individuals just because you have shared experiences of deep emotional situations, or maybe both people. It doesn't even have to be about family trauma or childhood trauma. It can be like, you met somebody, you both went through a hard divorce, and that's how you bonded. So it can be people that you have a strong bond with because of shared emotional deep experiences in general. But that does not mean that person is going to be a loyal friend or a loyal partner or whatever. It does not mean that. So there sometimes can be betrayal from people that you have a very strong emotional bond to. And again, that might not have anything to do with you. It's to do with them, And I'm not the type of person to say don't blame yourself or anything, because a lot of times we have to do that reflection. We can't just keep pointing the finger at everybody else, right? I'm all about that personal accountability piece. But in this situation, it can be people who they're really not ready to heal. You might be ready to heal, but you think because y'all been through the same thing, the same trauma, the same problems, the same emotional experiences, that's your friend or that's your partner, or we have this loyalty to each other. But a lot of times, sometimes these people are so unhealed that they can't actually give you what you want. Next. All right. So if you have Sagittarius in the cusp of the 12th house, Sag in the 12th house, if we are talking specifically about the topic of hidden enemies, you may have a situation where people hide the truth from you. You feel like there's some type of, or people, you weaponize belief systems. This could be really clear in people who, 12th house placements, Sag, people who have people who wield certain beliefs over you, people who know that they can, get you to do certain things, especially if you're talking about people that grew up in a religious background, right? where, you could have situations in your family where you learn later on, like, oh my goodness, like I was raised this way, but my so-and-so is a hypocrite. So you can come into situations where your hidden enemies are people that are hypocrites, the people that don't live like they say they should. They don't live the way they even want you to live, right? But you get caught up in this kind of sweep in terms of trying to do things the right way, the moral way, but then you learn the people around you don't even do that, right? So a lot of your hidden enemies is going to be through people trying to portray a certain thing, or people trying to mold your belief systems, or people who try to get you to believe something that may not be true, okay? And that can happen in many ways, whether we're talking about relationships, family situations, friends, whatever the case may be. It could be like you could be a person that was caught up in a cult, and you, right, like there's so many different possibilities for that. My job right now is just to tell you about the energy of it. Capricorn in the 12th, or placements in the 12th, if we're talking about hidden enemies, these could be people who they do cruel things, or they might do certain things to you or against you in the name of this can make you better, or in the name of I'm trying to help you, in the name of this is tough love, in the name of I'm just doing this because I know what's best for you, right? And so we're dealing with that Capricorn energy of this need and desire for there to be something that you are going towards, the goal, the end outcome. These could be people who seem like they're supportive of you, but really they're doing it for their own benefit. They might be doing it for their own reputation. So it can sometimes lead to some folks being a little bit used in a way, because it's almost like they want you to succeed, so that way that improves their reputation, that improves something they can get or gain from what you're doing, and you're doing the work. And so your hidden enemies come from people that may pretend also to have the answers, like, oh well, if you do it this way, this will happen this way. And it's like, but really they're doing it because there's a method, there's a methodology, there's a plan, there's something they want from you, if you are able to achieve what you need to achieve. And sometimes it could be a parent vicariously living through their child, and like you grow up and you're like, I didn't want to do any of those activities, I didn't want to go to this and that, I wanted to do this. And so, but you feel stunted because you feel like, wow, I was living my whole teen years for my parent because they wanted me to be an athlete. I didn't want to do that, right? And again, I'm not saying it has to be a parent or something of that nature, but that is just me giving an example for what that can look like, okay? So with Capricorn there, it is people who can look like they have your best interest in mind. These are older people typically. These are people who have a plan for you. They tell you how to do things, but when you look back at what really it is not for you, it is something they're getting out of it as well. But if they're asking you to do something and it doesn't align with your path or your purpose, that's where there could be some, you have to really evaluate, do you want to continue on that path, or do you want to really, decide for yourself what success looks like for you, which is something I say often about Aquarius. I say often about Capricorn energy. Aquarius, Cusp, or placements in there. Your hidden enemies are going to be people that is your ability to think outwardly. These could be people that tell you that your ideas are too radical. You're too much. You're too much. You're too much. It's kind of like Leo, which is the opposite sign, which is interesting, right? Like what I said about Leo. But in this case, it's like they might not even want you to branch out. They might not want you to be a part of other communities. They don't want you to go to that group. They want you to stay their friend. This is the friend. This is so interesting where you can get, and it's not only Aquarius and 12th house energy, but you can get, well, I tell Aquarius a friendship, right? I'm not friends with them, so you shouldn't be friends with them, right? It's that type of energy. It's, it's us against the world. It is weaponizing your need to connect and belong. As I tell you, Aquarius is the sign of the individual, but it also needs to belong to something. That is the contradiction of the Aquarius energy. But again, that's a different video for that. They weaponize your ability, your desire to want to belong. Because remember, whatever's on the cusp of your 12th house is still a soul purpose thing. Again, there's a video about that if you want to check that out. I talk about signs of the 12th house, where I talk about it more generally and not talk about this specific topic. But it's people that don't want you to branch out beyond them. It's people who don't want you to experiment. They want, and sometimes it doesn't mean they're horrible people. They just feel safer with you right where you want to be. Like, we're here. We went through the same stuff, right? We're friends. And, it's a threat to them for you to grow in different ways, to become a part of different networks, to be part of different groups of people. And so sometimes you can have that experience where y'all were friends when you were younger, and as you grow older, you realize there's a disconnect somewhere. So for you, it can sometimes be those friendship situations. Your hidden enemies are people that you have some type of association with, or people that you belong, you've had some type of, upbringing together, or there's something shared ideals that you have. But a lot of times they don't want you to grow beyond that. They don't want you to experiment. They want you to stay where you are. They'll tell you that's safer. They'll tell you something's wrong with you. They'll tell you that idea can never work. That is what you might experience with Aquarius there. Again, we're only talking about this specific topic. Pisces. You have Pisces on the cusp of your 12th house. Okay, so we're dealing with Pisces energy here. You might have experiences where your hidden enemies are going to be people who pretend to care about the same things you do. They pretend to have the same level of compassion, or they might pretend to have the same appreciation and love for something, but they really don't. It could be a lot of like the charlatan stuff. It could be a lot of the partner who pretends that they're into the same things as you, and they care a lot about this ethical treatment of this and 12th house is animals, small animals, 6th house, 12th house, large animals. So I'm trying to give a good example. Okay, you're an animal lover, and someone comes to you and like they pretend like they like the same. They know you're a compassionate person, perhaps. It doesn't mean every 12th house Pisces person is, but you're a compassionate person and you care about things beyond yourself. And they use that to get in good with you. They pretend they care about some of the same causes as you. They pretend that they have the same gentle approach to life as you. Especially if we're talking about a highly spiritual person. People might pretend that they're into the same type of spiritual beliefs as you. They might pretend that they have the same, experiences as you. They kind of latch onto the experiences that you had. They might even then sometimes like pretend to have the same experiences, right? People who might lie. People who may really be deceptive in that way. So your Pisces on the cusp of 12th house, your hidden enemies are people who are really deceptive, but they do it in a way in which they kind of embed themselves into your life. They are good at maybe even practicing and pretending to be into the same things that you are, because their goal is to, in some way, they know the way to get to that part of you is to be true to those things. And so those folks who, for whatever reason, they want to do that. Is it some people just have like a disorder, and that's why they pretend to be something they're not. Some people, they're trying to get into a relationship with you. Some people want to keep you around. It's like, but how do I, right? And they're insecure and they want to keep you around by pretending to be something. So does it mean every person that does this is an evil, horrible person? I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying in this case, these people are pretending because they want access to you, or they want something. They sometimes they just emulate what you are, and they just aren't that. It doesn't always have to mean the person is again doing this in a way to kind of take over your life. But when you have hidden enemies, Pisces, it's like you have to be careful, because people who seem too good to be true and they seem to be completely aligned, but it's like, but their lifestyle does not match what they claim they're into, and they're trying too hard to embed themselves in your world. That's where you'll notice these people are hidden enemies, and they're there in some way to to be deceptive, to not be honest, to lie, and that in some shape or form will eventually show up.